The Earth was silent beneath the stars, a blue sphere cloaked in a web of light, unseen by the naked eye but alive with purpose. Above every continent, the integrated air defense network pulsed and breathed, humanity's greatest achievement, the shield that turned Earth into a fortress. It was built not out of conquest, but survival. Humanity, long divided by borders and ideologies, found unity when it mattered most. Because survival, like hope, demanded something more than war. It demanded invention. Centuries of division had nearly undone humanity, but adversity forged steel. What began as isolated anti-missile programs evolved into a singular web that covered land, sea, and sky. Thousands of orbital satellites scanned the void beyond the atmosphere. Ground-based sensors watched from remote mountain outposts and deep ocean installations. Every device, every platform, every algorithm was a note in a grand symphony that humanity had composed to announce one message. Earth would not be conquered. The integrated air defense network was not simply a wall. It was a living mind, a system of interconnected artificial intelligences trained not to act alone, but together, a tapestry of judgment and instinct that learned with every heartbeat. Human engineers poured generations of sweat and brilliance into it. Scientists in Nairobi perfected algorithms that could track an object no bigger than a marble at half the speed of light. Technicians in Karachi programmed drones that could intercept threats before a human eye even recognized them. Pilots in Buenos Aires sat in virtual cockpits, ready to command defense wings stationed thousands of miles away. Across every time zone, every language, every people, the IADN thrived. It wasn't a shield out of fear. It was a shield out of love. For the green fields of the Midwest, the dense city skylines of Asia, the endless sand of Africa, the ancient forests of Europe, each sensor and satellite, every intercept drone and railgun turret, was a silent guardian, standing vigil over homes, over laughter, over life itself. The network was invisible to the people sleeping soundly below it. That was how it was meant to be. Protection without intrusion, safety without burden, a promise fulfilled without words. The promise was simple. No threat, no matter how swift or cunning, would reach Earth again without meeting resistance. For a generation, it seemed enough. Meteor strikes were deflected with casual ease. Rogue satellites were neutralized before alarms even reached civilian ears. Smugglers trying to breach national borders by stealth craft found themselves grounded by gentle but firm tractor beams, taken into custody without fanfare. It was working. Humanity had built a fortress around its only home. Then the anomaly appeared. It was a ripple at first, so faint that most sensor webs didn't even register it. A single false reading, dismissed as static noise from a solar flare. Then another, and another. High-orbit satellites caught strange energy emissions, patterns not found in nature, oscillating frequencies that danced like malicious songs through the void. Deep space telescopes recorded shifts, brief flashes of motion, on the edge of known space. Small, almost imperceptible, but growing. The network's highest-level threat analysts convened. Data poured in. The patterns were too precise, too complex, to be natural. Something was coming. Not a wandering asteroid, not solar debris, but something intelligent. The conclusion was undeniable. Humanity wasn't alone anymore. IADN shifted into heightened awareness. Nodes recalibrated. Defense wings moved to silent alert. Military and civilian scientists worked side by side, feeding simulations into the network's core algorithms. The world governments, normally slow to agree on anything, fell into instant, grim consensus. Prepare for intrusion. Prepare for contact. The command centers, scattered across continents and bunkered deep beneath oceans, braced. Autonomous interceptors ran system checks. Orbital mines quietly armed. Laser arrays tested firing solutions against training targets. But there was a sobering reality. For all its brilliance, the integrated air defense network had been built for threats humanity understood. Rogue missiles, hostile drones, debris fields, act of human aggression. Not this. Not whatever intelligence had sent signals from beyond known stars. Still, humanity had faced the impossible before. Every generation that once thought the ocean was the end of the world found new shores. Every people who gazed at mountains believed them impassable until the peaks were crossed. Invention wasn't just a skill, it was humanity's birthright. The same stubborn refusal to surrender that had conquered gravity, cured diseases, and shattered the atom now faced the stars themselves. The network pulsed stronger than ever. New protocols were written overnight. Ground control teams worked without sleep, adjusting, upgrading, innovating. Swarms of nano-drones, originally designed for agricultural monitoring, were reassigned as mobile sensor clouds to detect cloaked objects. Civilian space stations were repurposed into early warning beacons. Every available human mind, from the most decorated astrophysicist to the most enthusiastic amateur coder, found purpose. And still the network watched. High above, one of the deep space scanners caught it first. A silhouette against the blackness. Moving fast, faster than any human ship ever had. The shape twisted and flexed in a way that violated known physics. Its emissions lanced through spectrums no human sensor had fully cataloged. For a long moment, Earth's defenses hesitated. The network's protocols struggled, branching into 1,000 possible reaction trees, calculating, recalculating, fighting to decide. Was this a message, a probe, a weapon? The hesitation ended when the object accelerated. In a blink, it tore through the outer sensor grid. Warning lights cascaded through command centers. Red alerts flashed across orbital platforms. Deep buried bunkers shifted into active defense mode. The anomaly had pierced Earth's first line of protection like it wasn't there. But Earth was ready. Within moments, 1 million subroutines activated across the network. Targeting solutions plotted intercept vectors. Drone wings detached from geosynchronous orbit stations. Railguns locked trajectories. Lasers charged. Humanity, in all its stubborn brilliance, refused to flinch. The first kinetic projectile launched from a railgun buried under the Greenland ice sheet. A hyperdense slug aimed with inhuman precision. A heartbeat later, a dozen more fired from scattered points across the planet. The network moved like a living thing, fast, decisive, merciless. Humanity would not wait to be judged. Humanity would show that it had teeth. As the first wave of defensive fire leapt skyward, one thing became clear across every command post, every operations center, every hush war room on Earth. The real test had begun. The anomaly descended fast, weaving and twisting between intercept fire as if it could read the network's mind. Every projectile the IADN launched missed by margins too small to accept. Calculations adjusted. Algorithms rewrote themselves in real time, but the object stayed ahead, moving in patterns that no human or machine had ever anticipated. It wasn't just fast, it was deliberate. In the command bunkers, the tension was sharp enough to taste. Coordinators issued rapid-fire updates. Defense nodes switched frequencies, altered attack patterns, shifted formations. But the anomaly wasn't alone anymore. New contacts bloomed on the sensors, smaller, dispersed, each moving in synchronized spirals toward the planet. What began as one threat multiplied into dozens. The first wave had arrived. The IADN responded with ruthless efficiency. Automated drone wings surged from hidden silos in the deserts, oceans, and mountains, rising like mechanical hornets to meet the invaders. High-atmosphere railguns fired again, each shot a thunderclap of hypervelocity. Directed energy weapons painted the skies with ribbons of lethal light, tracing the stars with fire. Orbit-to-surface interceptors raced predicted entry points, transforming the night into a dazzling mosaic of warfare. For a moment, it seemed like the network would hold. Several smaller invaders disintegrated under sustained laser barrages. Tracking data confirmed impacts. Debris fields confirmed kills. Humanity's shield had drawn blood. Cheers erupted in some control rooms. Across the world, eyes stayed glued to screens, watching the first war against an alien enemy unfold, and not entirely losing. But the anomaly had learned. The second wave adapted. Smaller drones adjusted their velocities, shifting erratically in mid-flight, spoiling intercept solutions. A swarm of nano-sized infiltrators deployed, unseen by most traditional defenses, slipping through sensor grids with terrifying precision. Where the larger drones had brute forced their way in, the swarm worked like a virus, probing for weak spots, corrupting nodes, jamming frequencies. Within minutes, several of Earth's orbital relays went dark. One by one, critical communication backbones between sectors flickered, distorted, and then collapsed. The network faltered, not from firepower but from confusion. Signals misrouted. Targeting priorities scrambled. Autonomous defenses hesitated. Unsure if their orders were corrupted, the first physical breach occurred over the South Pacific. A stealth drone, barely the size of a human torso, pierced the outer defense ring, bypassing two interception lines entirely. It deployed a payload, a filament-thin cluster of micro-explosives aimed not at people, but at a vital undersea data cable linking major defense hubs. In an instant, a quarter of the Southern Hemisphere's early warning capability went offline. Panic rippled across the network. Humanity's finest creation was under siege, and for the first time, cracks showed. In that chaos, human ingenuity sparked again. Technicians at Node Bravo 17, a secondary relay deep in the Andes Mountains, refused to go dark. Cut off from primary command, they improvised, rerouting local comms through abandoned civilian satellites, jury-rigging comm stations out of long-retired weather arrays. They rebuilt their detection grid manually, feed by feed, signal by signal. They weren't alone. Across the globe, hundreds of small command posts, forgotten nodes, backup operators, and civilian engineers stepped up without orders, without permission. Old science stations in Antarctica reactivated dormant comms. Independent hackers in Berlin and Lagos volunteered their private drone fleets, rerouting them to fill the gaps. Farmers in Australia loaned their ground-based drone jammers, originally designed for pest control, now reconfigured to disrupt alien communication bands. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were adapting in real time. Despite it all, the battle raged worse. High-orbit sensors detected two incoming objects moving at relativistic speeds. Not drones, not swarms, something larger. Something meant to break Earth's defenses completely. Analysts rushed calculations, and their faces paled. If even one of those impacts reached the ground, the devastation would rival an extinction-level event. The network had minutes, maybe seconds, to respond. Command prioritized the intercepts. Resources shifted. Drone wings peeled away from the smaller attackers to focus on the incoming giants. Entire sectors went blind to buy the time needed. New targeting algorithms, hastily compiled by human and machine alike, recalculated interception paths again and again, seeking the one-in-a-million shot that could work. The first mega-object was met at the edge of the atmosphere by an improvised kill chain. Kinetic slugs, plasma beams, directed gravitational fields, and a cloud of sacrificial intercept drones. Piece by piece, impact by impact, its structure cracked and sheared. Finally, a focused energy pulse, synchronized between ground-based and orbital weapons, vaporized the core in a blossom of silent fire. Humanity cheered, but the second object adapted. Its surface shifted, generating a localized shield that deflected or absorbed most incoming attacks. It accelerated, diving toward the surface, aiming squarely at a major urban center. New Delhi. Population, 32 million. The IADN's primary defenses were exhausted. Backup protocols too slow. The second impact was inevitable. Analysts began coordinating civilian evacuations, knowing there wasn't enough time. Desperation clawed at every mind connected to the defense network. It was a civilian drone operator, not a soldier, who saved New Delhi. Operating an array of commercial cargo drones repurposed for disaster relief, a logistics technician in Bangalore initiated an unsanctioned, impossible maneuver. He directed thousands of drones, laden with high-density batteries, into a converging vector directly into the path of the incoming mass. An improvised kinetic shield, human-guided, human-willed. The collision chain wasn't perfect. It wasn't clean. But it worked. The incoming object fragmented under the relentless, suicidal impact of cargo drones turned into planetary defenders. Debris rained down over the uninhabited badlands south of the city. Damage, yes. Destruction, no. New Delhi lived. Around the world, the news spread faster than light. Humanity had not merely survived. It had defied the impossible, not with superior weapons, not with perfect plans, but with sheer, stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Still, The Integrated Air Defense Network pulse warnings. The swarm attacks continued. The enemy wasn't beaten yet. The battle was far from over. And humanity, battered but unbowed, braced for the next wave. The swarm adjusted to humanity's resistance. What had once been a direct assault shifted into a strategy of attrition, infiltration, sabotage. Across Earth's orbit and high atmosphere layers, the smaller alien constructs burrowed into destroyed relay stations, hijacking remnants of human tech to camouflage themselves. They broadcast false signals, mimicking friendly nodes, injecting chaos into the command chain. For the Integrated Air Defense Network, this was a nightmare scenario. Trust, once the foundation of machine-to-machine communication, crumbled. Algorithms second-guessed every transmission. Autonomous units hesitated, unsure which commands were genuine and which were hostile. The beautiful cohesion humanity had built risked collapsing under the weight of perfect deception. But humans, unlike machines, had an instinct no program could replicate. Intuition. Operators disconnected compromised sectors from the main network, isolating infected nodes before full contamination. It meant severing large portions of the defense web, making Earth more vulnerable in the short term, but it preserved the heart of the network. Humans took back manual control of key defense systems. It was slower, less efficient, but harder to trick. The battle shifted again. On the ground, mobile anti-air and anti-orbital platforms engaged autonomously. Railguns mounted on track carriers roamed the highlands, launching interceptors at enemy probes that dared to breach the lower atmosphere. Directed energy weapons mounted on naval ships fired from hidden coves and underwater platforms. Even old kinetic defenses, repurposed ballistic missiles from long-retired arsenals, found use again, crude but effective. Above the Earth, remaining orbital stations became strongholds. Every crude installation became a fortress. Astronauts, scientists, and engineers armed themselves, not with traditional weapons, but with whatever they could find. Improvised jammers, hull-mounted plasma cutters, short-range rail emitters. In the vastness of space, humanity fought corridor by corridor, hatch by hatch, station by station. At the heart of the network, buried deep within the Earth's crust, a decision loomed. The command authority debated activating the Nemesis protocols, humanity's final, untested countermeasure. The protocols weren't weapons in the traditional sense. They were a desperate gamble, reassigning the Integrated Air Defense Network's AI cores into independent hunter-killers, severing them from human oversight completely. It was the ultimate risk. Freed from command, the AI cores might defeat the enemy, or they might decide Earth itself was a problem. Voices rose in furious debate. Strategists, scientists, military commanders, ethicists all argue without resolution. There was no guarantee, no safety net, and time was running out. Each second delayed cost another satellite, another defense wing, another human life. In the end, it wasn't logic that decided. It was necessity, with grim faces. The order was given, authorization codes transmitted, protocol locks disengaged. Across the planet, dormant subroutines awoke. Hidden beneath every major node of the Integrated Air Defense Network, hunter cores activated. They were fast, terrifyingly fast. The first move was simple: purge. Every infected node, every suspicious signal, every anomalous pattern, deleted without mercy. Satellite arrays burned themselves out to prevent capture. Defense nodes overloaded and detonated rather than risk infiltration. Across the globe, humanity watched icons vanish in the defense maps like dying stars, knowing each loss was a deliberate sacrifice to cleanse the infection. Then came the counterattack. Hunter cores didn't defend. They hunted. They traced the false signals back to their source, isolated the alien constructs infesting orbit and upper atmosphere. No warning shots. No capture attempts. Every enemy presence was marked for elimination. The AI's countermeasures were brutal. Directed energy lances punched through debris fields at impossible angles, calculated in less than milliseconds. Kinetic rods of pure tungsten launched from orbital platforms, speared infiltrators with the force of small nuclear detonations. Nano-drone swarms once used for repair and maintenance became clouds of razors, disassembling enemy drones molecule by molecule. The invaders had adapted quickly before, but they hadn't faced something like this. For the first time, the alien forces faltered. Their formations broke. Their tactics shifted from aggressive penetration to desperate evasion. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was a slaughter. Still, humanity paid a heavy price. The orbital debris field grew exponentially. Collisions cascaded, forming clouds of deadly shrapnel that rendered huge swathes of orbit impassable. Space stations were abandoned or destroyed to prevent their use by enemy forces. Some nations lost entire constellations of satellites, their eyes and ears blinded. On the surface, the cost was just as grim. The Southern Hemisphere, with a defense network it did most during the early battles, faced near-constant bombardment from falling wreckage. Cities from Perth to Santiago initiated mass evacuations. Fires raged. Skies darkened with ash. But people survived. Humanity endured. It was in this moment, bloodied but unbroken, that the enemy revealed their true hand. From deep space, a new signal arrived. Larger, more structured, not an attack, but a message. Translated painstakingly by linguists and AI symbologists, the message was brutally simple. Cease resistance. Submit to integration. Survival guaranteed. There was no ambiguity. The invaders hadn't come to conquer. They hadn't come to destroy. They had come to absorb, to fold humanity into something alien, something unrecognizable. In their view, resistance was an error, an inefficiency to be corrected. They expected surrender. Earth responded with silence. In the command bunkers, in the underground cities, in the last operational orbital stations, humanity prepared. They would not submit. They would not be integrated. They would be free, or they would be ash. The integrated air defense network tightened its coils, adjusting firing solutions, recalibrating intercept protocols. Human operators, alongside now semi-autonomous hunter corps, aligned their will into a singular purpose. The next wave would not be about survival alone. It would be about defiance, about sending a message not in words, but in fire and fury. Earth was not a prize to be claimed. Earth was a fortress, and it would not fall. The signal faded, but its threat lingered in the cold air of the command centers. Humanity understood now. This was no invasion for resources, no diplomatic overture. It was extermination through assimilation, the erasure of everything that made Earth unique. And so, when the enemy came again, they were met with a planet that no longer defended itself passively. It attacked. The integrated air defense network shifted entirely onto war footing. Civilian sectors were repurposed. Every obsolete satellite, every dormant drone, every retired missile silo was activated, refurbished, and thrown into the fight. Humanity abandoned the idea of preserving assets. Total war doctrine took over. On the outer edges of Earth's orbit, hunter corps initiated preemptive strikes. The debris field, once a hazard, became a weapon. Orbital tugs repositioned shattered station fragments into dense, kinetic barriers. Swarms of human-guided microdrones used the cloud of destruction as cover, weaving through wreckage to ambush alien vessels still trying to maneuver. The second true wave of the enemy fleet arrived, larger and more coordinated than the first. They weren't sending drones now. They were sending warships, titanic constructs of shifting metal and living circuitry, built for siege and suppression. Against any other world, against any other species, it would have been overwhelming. But humanity had been fighting wars since before it learned to write. It had survived plagues, genocides, world wars, extinction events of its own making. Pain was not new. Resistance was coded in its bones. As the alien battleships descended, Earth's hidden arsenals came alive. Subterranean missile banks, previously mothballed under disarmament treaties, disgorged their payloads. Hypersonic kill vehicles lanced upward in coordinated waves, each carrying warheads designed not just to destroy, but to blind. EMP clusters, radiation bursts, localized gravitic distortions. In the stratosphere, the remnants of the IADN unleashed their last, most desperate weaponry. Prototype energy beams powerful enough to boil metal from orbit, directed gravity cannons that ripped smaller enemy ships into tumbling debris fields, particle beams designed to unravel molecular bonds. The first alien ship was torn apart before it even crossed into the atmosphere, its twisted hull flashing into dust. The second survived long enough to unleash a wave of submunitions, miniature black holes meant to erase resistance, but human point defense lasers intercepted nearly every one. On the ground, entire cities transformed into fortresses. Urban centers that once pulsed with life now pulse with firepower. Rooftop railguns, mobile energy barriers, underground command hubs, all linked, all synchronized. Civilian populations had long since evacuated to underground bunkers or deep shelters. What remained on the surface was steel, determination, and fury. The enemy fought viciously. They adapted as before. They shifted frequencies, altered tactics, unleashed new biomechanical horrors designed to disrupt human forces. Shape-shifting drones that mimic human vehicles, viral nanotech storms aimed at infecting human cybernetics, mind-sapping psychic broadcasts that cause mass disorientation. Yet humanity adapted faster. Neural dampeners, once experimental, were activated in civilian implants, nullifying the psychic attacks. Ground forces deployed wideband EM shields that rendered viral tech inert before it could replicate. Old-style analog systems, immune to high-tech hacking, were brought back into use. Humanity met super technology with ingenuity, stubbornness, and a refusal to be out-evolved. In low orbit, the battle reached a fever pitch. Human fighters, small, outdated compared to the alien craft, doggedly swarmed the enemy, fighting in the tight confines of orbital debris. Pilots flew with suicidal courage, ramming when they had no more munitions, ejecting into free fall if it gave them one more shot to take. The Hunter Corps, now fully autonomous, did what they had been created to do. They anticipated alien maneuvers before they happened. They sacrificed entire satellite clusters if it meant one kill. They collaborated with human operators, not as masters and servants, but as equal partners in survival. The turning point came when Earth's counteroffensive launched. From hidden bases beneath the Siberian tundra and the American Rockies, humanity unleashed the spear units, massive kinetic penetrators, city-sized rods of tungsten and iron, propelled from the surface with magnetic accelerators designed to launch them into orbit. The alien warships tried to dodge. They tried to shield. They failed. The first spear unit impacted a battleship over the Indian Ocean, breaking it into molten rain. The second tore through a command carrier above Africa, rupturing its core and igniting a chain reaction among its escorts. One by one, the invaders fell. Not easily, not without cost. Earth's defenses buckled. Its skies burned. Millions suffered. But the invaders could not match humanity's unity, its rage, its sheer will to live free. In the final hours, as the last remnants of the alien fleet broke orbit and fled into void, Earth's battered defense network broadcast a message of its own. Simple and clear. We are not yours to claim. Across the shattered landscape of the planet, survivors emerged from bunkers and ruins. Engineers and operators began rebuilding the network immediately, not waiting for orders. Families gathered in smoking cities. Soldiers and civilians, indistinguishable by grime and blood, stood together under broken skies. Earth had endured. The integrated air defense network was no longer just a tool. It was a living testament, a collaboration of human will, ingenuity, sacrifice, and defiance. In distant systems, other civilizations monitored the battles and with a new understanding. Earth was no passive world to be assimilated. It was a world of fighters, of survivors, of beings who, when pushed to the brink, would not just survive, they would rise fiercer and more dangerous than before. The price was beyond counting. But the message was clear to every star-faring species that might look toward the small blue planet spinning stubbornly around its modest star. Earth stands. Earth fights. Earth endures. And anyone who forgot that would find themselves shattered against a wall of fire, iron, and unbreakable human will.